matter of fact that it's been a delightful process working with the city and working with the neighbors. Our neighborhood outreach has been fantastic. We've held multiple meetings with with both sites, and it's been something that's kind of refreshing, and we've received neighborhood support in both areas. One a little bit more contentious than the other, but overall, just wanted to thank you, and if you guys have any questions on either, I'm here to answer anything.
Thank you very much, Mr. Reed. Brady Alexander. Okay, we'll go now into council discussion. Councilmember Villagrán.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to highlight item 3, the contract amendment on Fire Station 52 and Fire Station 53 replacements. Fire Station 53 is located in District 3, and those that have been out to Dunlop off I-37 understand the need for upgrades to this facility. The ordinance approves for additional design and construction phase services related to design refinements needed for the fire stations, replacing the temporary administration and housing areas at each station. I think we all know that with the extreme heat and the grass fires coming out, that we need all our stations updated and working at their best, and so I look forward to moving this forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Villagrán. Councilmember Castillo.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm excited to highlight a couple of items. Item 5 in particular, which is a state energy conservation grant to Kennedy Park for lighting retrofit. I want to express my thanks to the parks team, and tomorrow Homer and I will be doing a walkthrough with some constituents to look at improvements that are needed over at Kennedy Park, and I'm pleased to see that work's already being done in securing additional lighting for this park. Further, item 15 and 16 are resolutions of support for Fish Pond and the National Grocery Building. If these applications are successful, we'll see a drastic increase in senior housing in the urban core. We're really excited, and we hope these applications and projects are successful. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilmember Castillo. Councilmember Alderete-Gavito.
Thank you, Mayor. I wanted to highlight item number 6, approving for boards and commission appointments. We're reappointing Dr. Ellen Rojas Clark, District 7, to the San Antonio Arts Commission. Dr. Clark was unable to join us today, but I'd like to say a few words to praise her work. Dr. Clark has been a pillar in our community, paving the way for many Latina leaders and championing the pursuit of higher education amongst Latinos through mentorship, academia, and advocacy. She worked tirelessly throughout her career at UTSA to advance bicultural, bilingual studies and Latino education. This past December, she received the prestigious honor of the creation of the Ellen Rojas Clark PhD Endowed Chair in Bicultural Bilingual Studies at UTSA. She's a fearless advocate for equity, social justice, and cultural awareness in our community, and I'm proud to have her continue to represent District 7 in the San Antonio Arts Commission. Additionally, I wanted to highlight item number 19 in support for the Karen Point Wurzbach application. There are a number of potential affordable housing developments on today's consent agenda, which I'm really glad to see. In regards to this proposed project on Wurzbach Road, I just wanted to point out that this housing development will cater specifically to older adults and people with disabilities. My team and I were able to participate in Opportunity Homes point in time count last week, and we encountered a number of unhoused individuals who were either older adults or had disabilities or both. It gives me hope that there are projects in the works that could potentially get some of the people we connected with off the streets and into affordable housing. Building off of that, the location for this project is ideal because for that population, it is highly accessible to bus stops, grocery stores, and to the medical center. It's also right next to a local nonprofit, Project Mend, which provides refurbished medical equipment to people with disabilities. This project feels like a no-brainer when you consider all of these factors. So I just wanted to point out my support for the application and hopefully to create more affordable housing in our community. That's all I have. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilmember Alderete-Gavito. Any further discussion on the consent agenda? Okay, hearing none, there's a motion and a second for approval of all items save for 9, and those that were withdrawn, please vote. Motion carries. All right. We have a number of special guests in our midst today, and I will begin with a welcome to Deborah Omawale and her team at SACAM as I read the following proclamation. Whereas during the month of February 2024, the City of San Antonio will come together with communities across the nation and the world to commemorate Black African American History Month and pay tribute to the remarkable accomplishments of Black and African Americans from the birth of our nation to the present day. And whereas Black African Americans have made immeasurable contributions that embody the core principles on which our nation was built, their labor, sacrifices, voices, and vision have played a pivotal role in fulfilling our nation's commitment to life, vitality, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And whereas the theme for Black African American History Month 2024 is African Americans and the arts, and focuses on the many impacts of Black African Americans have had on visual arts, music, and cultural movements throughout the lived experiences filled with grace and determination. And whereas many events and activities are scheduled during the months-long observance that include art exhibits, educational lectures, children's workshops, and gospel programs to recognize the role that generations of Black African Americans have played in our nation's struggle to become a more perfect union. Now therefore, I, Ron Nirenberg, Mayor of the City of San Antonio, in recognition thereof, do hereby proclaim February 2024 to be Black African American Heritage Month in San Antonio, Texas.
Thank you, Mayor Nirenberg, honorable council persons, and our observers. For 98 years, Black History Week and then Black History Month has been celebrated. As the mayor said, this year's national theme is African Americans and the arts. African American art is infused with African, Caribbean, and the Black American lived experiences. Look around you. In the fields of visual and performing arts, literature, fashion, folklore, language, film, music, architecture, culinary, and other forms of cultural expression, the African American influence has been paramount. African American artisans have used art to preserve history and community memory, as well as empowerment, healing, and joy. At the San Antonio African American Community Archive and Museum, our mission is to collect, preserve, and share the African American cultural heritage of the San Antonio region, and we celebrate Black history every day of the year. Thank you so much for the opportunity to share the rich heritage of African Americans in the arts with you. Today, you will witness Minister Janet Hurt from the New Birth Community Church sing the Negro National Anthem, also known as Lift Every Voice and Sing, written by James Weldon Johnson. You will also hear a monologue from Lena Younger, the matriarch in Lorraine Hansberry's classic, A Raisin in the Sun, opening February 8th, but that day is sold out, and running through February 25th at our own Cellar Theater at the San Pedro Playhouse. At the remaining A sessions this month, you will experience art, movement artists, and the spoken word. I invite you to hear the stories, see the stories, and feel the power of the stories portrayed. Consider how at the core, our stories are so much more similar than they are different. Through our common stories, told with a common language, we can build a collective future. We are excited for this opportunity to share that reality with you today. And just wait until you see what we have in store for you at our new home on Houston Street. Thank you.
Good morning, Mayor Nuremberg, and to the entire San Antonio City Council persons. Thank you so much for this opportunity to share, first of all, the gift that God gave me, and to share in the fact that this is Black History Month. Lift every voice and sing till earth and heaven ring, ring with the harmonies of liberty. Let our rejoicing rise high as the listening skies. Let it resound loud as the rolling sea. Sing a song full of the faith that the dark past has taught us. Sing a song full of the hope that the present has brought us. Facing the rising sun of a new day begun. Let us march on till victory is won.
Good morning. To the mayor and the esteemed city council. My name is Cassandra Small. I am an actor in the upcoming production at the Classic Theater, A Raisin in the Sun. And we thank you, our warmest and most sincere thanks for having us here this morning. We want to share with you that the Classic Theater at San Pedro Playhouse, located in District 1, is the longest running theater in Texas. The Classic brings masterpieces from all backgrounds to San Antonio. And the importance of A Raisin in the Sun has already been shared by so many people earlier this morning, how we are so much more alike than we are different, no matter what we look like to one another. And that our struggles are all so similar, so vital, and so crucial. And in this story of a family struggling to make their way out of poverty, we see the impact on people's emotions, personalities, and their dreams. So the piece that I'm going to perform for you is the aftermath of a son having squandered a long-awaited insurance check that would have given the family some respite from their poor situation. Yes, death done come in this here house, done come marching in my house on the lips of my children. You who was supposed to be my beginning again. You were supposed to be my harvest. How did we get to this here place? Are you mourning your brother? You feeling like you better than he is today? What did you tell him? That he wasn't a man? Yeah? You feeling like you better than he is today? You give him up for me? You done wrote his epitaph too like the rest of the world? Who give you that privilege? I thought I taught you how to love him. 'cause there's always something left to love. Have you cried for your brother today? I don't mean for yourself or the family, 'cause we lost the money, but for him, what he been through and what it done to him. Child, when do you think is the time to love somebody the most? When they done good and made things easier for everybody? Well, then you ain't through learning, 'cause that ain't the time at all. It's when he can't believe in himself no more, 'cause the world done whipped him so. When you measure somebody, make sure you measure him right. Measure him right. Make sure you done taken into account what hills and valleys he done come through to get to where he is now. Thank you. Thank you. So now for the shameless plug. We invite you to please go to theclassictheater.org to purchase tickets. Our show, as I said, on opening night is sold out, so it is available to you from the 9th of February through the 25th. On Wednesdays, we offer free performances for students, and there is also a night designated for ASL performance. We thank you so much for helping us celebrate Black History Month. Thank you so much for having us this morning.
Thank you very much, Cassandra. And Janet, and then again, Deborah, sharing all of our thanks with you for helping us to really make sure that we're bringing the proper highlights to this chamber during this month and all the other months in between, frankly. So thank you very much, Deborah. I'm going to turn the floor now to Councilmember Mickey Rodriguez.
Thank you, Mayor, and we love a shameless plug. I'll plug it again for you, theclassictheater.org. I want to start off by wishing a happy and empowering Black History Month. This year's national theme for Black History Month has been said, African Americans and the Arts. We celebrate and honor the important history of our ancestors, leaders, and cultural workers who have struggled and celebrated through various art forms of self-expression. Black artists have fearlessly addressed social issues, challenged the status quo, and amplified diverse voices and stories, creating a narrative that inspires and fosters dialogue across the globe. From church hymns to the Harlem Renaissance to hip hop to all types of food, dance, street art, and every other medium, Black artists have always reflected history as it's happening in powerful and expressive ways. I'm overwhelmingly proud to represent the East Side, our historically Black district, where our legacies live on in the fabric of our neighborhoods, the anchors of our businesses, and in the soul of our arts and culture. I invite everyone to come visit and enjoy the beauty of the East Side all year round, not just during Black History Month or MLK March. We're Black 24/7 year round, so support us 24/7 year round. The Carver Theater, the Eye of the Beholder Gallery, the historic cemeteries, Midtown Lounge, and culinary creators like Chapman's Chicken, Mittman's Fine Food, and Narland's Creole Kitchen are the cornerstones of our artistic communities in District 2. I invite anyone with a heart for soulful communities to continue demanding justice and reimagining what a truly liberated society for all looks and feels like. I also invite everyone to celebrate Black Futures Month by learning from the voices and leadership of Black communities and supporting our continued fight for justice and equity, standing in solidarity when it matters most, supporting our small businesses, theaters, art galleries, public art spaces, and celebrating our community. Finally, I want to thank each and every person who sacrificed and paved the way for someone like me to sit at this dais today. I reflect often on what it means to be the first openly gay Black man elected to any public office in the state of Texas, and I don't take that honor lightly. Every day of the year is the right time to honor Black history and uplift Black futures, and to note that Black history is happening every single day. In every decision that we make, we have to ask ourselves, how are we righting the wrongs of our past? How are we going to do better? And I ask that of myself and every person in this room, not just today or this month, but every month. And so I want to close off by saying thank you, Deborah, and all of SACAM for the role that you play in preserving and celebrating Black history in San Antonio every single day. And thank you all for sharing your gifts with us. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilmember McKee Rodriguez. Councilmember Alderete Gavito.
Thank you, Mayor. I do want to echo what's been so wonderfully stated from Councilman McKee Rodriguez. Also, San Antonio has a rich African-American history, and it's our responsibility to keep those stories alive and to continue uplifting and honoring Black voices within our community. Thank you for sharing some of those talents with us today, and I look forward to attending some of the events happening this month and celebrating Black History Month again, like Councilman McKee Rodriguez said, not just this month, but every month. Thank you so much. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilmember Alderete Gavito. Councilmember Kaur.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you to SACAM for coming today and for sharing with us that beautiful wake-up morning expression of art. So we really appreciate it. And since we're doing shameless plugs, I want to shamelessly plug that we're excited to have SACAM in downtown in District 1 coming soon. Thanks, Mayor.
Great, thank you very much. Deborah, I know you've got a full month for us here, so we're looking forward to seeing you back every week. And we want to express our thanks again. I know this is just added to all of your other responsibilities along with the SACAM team, so really appreciate it. And Cassandra, you've given us a glimpse of what is at Classic Theater and really looking to catch a performance, so magnificent. And Laura, again, thank you very much for the anthem. So thank you guys for being here with us, and we look forward to seeing you throughout the month. All right, I'm now going to turn it over to Councilmember Viagran as soon as I read this proclamation. Whereas the 75th Annual San Antonio Stock Show and Rodeo, one of the largest and most prestigious events in the Alamo City, will be held February 8th through the 25th, 2024 at the Frostbank Center, Freeman Coliseum, with its livestock show to support its mission of educating future generations. And whereas the San Antonio Stock Show and Rodeo is a volunteer organization that emphasizes agriculture and education to develop the youth of Texas, and with the mission of educating future generations. And whereas since its inception in 1949, over $243 million has been generated and awarded by the organization to the youth of Texas in the form of scholarships, grants, endowments, auctions, calf scramble program, and show premiums. Each year, over 500 new scholars are added to the program, and over 10,500 Texas college students from all 254 Texas counties have benefited from a rodeo scholarship over the past 75 years. And whereas the lifeblood of the organization is the over 6,000 volunteers, the corporate partners, and patrons who support the event and mission. And whereas last year over 1.3 million visitors enjoyed exciting activities such as world-class entertainment, a carnival, educational exhibits, family activities and attractions, livestock and horse shows and sales, mutton busting, calf scramble, extreme bowls, and shopping for the entire family to enjoy. Now therefore, I, Ron Nirenberg, Mayor of the City of San Antonio, in recognition thereof, do hereby proclaim February 8th through 25th to be official rodeo season in San Antonio, Texas. Welcome up, and Councilmember Viagran.
Thank you. Come on up, Albert. He is our SA Rodeo Ambassador Chairman, and the committee members, come on up, and let me just praise y'all for continuing a 75-year tradition. And you heard the mayor say it, it is rodeo season. Councilman Rocha Garcia and I have our boots on. I don't know how many other council members are in their boots.
Remember to bring the boots.
Centro is celebrating and brought out their cow. I am super excited of what y'all been doing. Y'all know the stories. It's why I love this time of year, because I took my students to the grounds, because I was there as a kid, because I have seen it go from strictly nothing but country to vaquero night, and now you've got Cheap Trick and Sticks. I am just so excited for you. I want you to share what we can look forward to, and I love to hear my council colleagues share their rodeo memories, but this just keeps on getting good, and you are an integral part of what we do in terms of making sure we tell the whole San Antonio story about our Western heritage, about our Black cowboys, about the fact that this is who we are. We are Texans, and this is what we do. We rodeo. So Albert, take it away.
Thank you very much, Mayor Nirenberg, members of council. Thank you very much for allowing us to have this honor here to represent the San Antonio Stock Show and Rodeo. This is our 75th year, and we are super proud of that. to be here 75 years later. You heard the facts. Over 12,000 Texas students have gone to college, and that represents over 254 counties in the state of Texas. So that's a huge honor for us to be able to help those students continue their education. We have a star-studded show for you guys this year, our award-winning PRCA Rodeo. We also have our star-studded lineup of concerts for you again this year. That's 18 days, 22 performances. Also this weekend, we're kicking off that event with our Western Heritage Parade here downtown San Antonio, which we're very proud of. We'll actually be giving a scholarship away at our Vaquera Cook-Off over in, La Vita. No, not La Vita, I'm sorry. Market Square, thank you. We've moved the event. So Market Square, we'll actually be giving away a youth scholarship this year for the Vaquera Cook-Off. So that's a first this year, so we're very proud of that. You know, when you think about the 75 years that we've been in the city and been a part of the youth and developing them and educating, back in the old days, we were more of a production type skill event where kids raised FFA and 4-H programs, and they raised beef cattle, they raised swine, they raised sheep. And it was more revolved around that. When we've evolved so much since then in these 75 years, as far as what we offered the kids and the youth, there's over 25 other events or other opportunities for the youth, and that's just not just out in the rural areas, but also within the city of San Antonio, that they don't have to be members of FFA or 4-H anymore. There's skill-a-thons, there's ag mechanics, there's all other types of ways that these kids can get involved. And I think that's our responsibility as good stewards of our rodeo to educate the city and the other schools around in San Antonio that there are opportunities out there to earn educational scholarships as well. So we thank you guys for the opportunity to be here today. At 75 years, it's a big deal to us, and we invite you, we challenge you in your bags. You'll see there's some rodeo flags there. Put them out, put them on your porches, put them on your flagpoles, put them on social media. It's a big deal, and we're ready to get this thing going for you guys. So there's only one more thing we got to say. Let's rodeo San Antonio!
All right, y'all didn't do that last year, so it's going to be a good year. And excellent weather for the kickoff
75th.
too. Yeah. Let me turn it now to Councilmember Rocha Garcia.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you all so much for being here, and congratulations on the 75th anniversary of the rodeo. We received an economic impact report last year, and I just couldn't believe the amount of work that goes into that much effort, and the fact that our students from San Antonio schools locally benefit from it is just incredible. I want to acknowledge that you all give up some family time for the benefit of others who you will never meet, and I appreciate that. A lot of students that I represent benefit from it. A lot of them from Southwest High School in Southwest ISD. That is their favorite time of year, right? And so not only because they get to get out of class, but also because they know that they're going to be able to win scholarships to further their education. And I want to just deeply thank you and say that the community is watching and appreciates you. I also want to say that I got to attend last week the Cowboy Breakfast, and I went with Rafael, another scholarship organization, and it's truly scholarship season in San Antonio. And it's all of these volunteers that raise money, again, for children that they will never meet sometimes, but that they know is going to make an impact on their communities. And I can't thank you enough. A set of those students were there at the Cowboy Breakfast, and it was the kids from the St. Philip's College Culinary Arts. And they cooked all the tacos. And they were up, apparently, like they had to get up at 1 a.m. and they were there at 4 a.m. cooking. And they did an incredible job. And I noticed that everybody was so thankful of them and acknowledged that they had been there committing to serve their community. And I think that it was because of inspirational leaders like all of your volunteers. And then finally, I want to say that I'm working on bringing a rodeo robotics event to Port San Antonio in District 4. Because I feel like our students need to learn a little bit about the science behind the rodeo and the machines that operate, specifically the ag robotics section. And so looking forward to that, and I hope to have you all participate as well out in District 4, where we need some more students to learn that it's important to continue to improve and work for our San Antonio Stock Show and Rodeo. So congratulations, and I'll see you at the rodeo. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilmember Rocha Garcia. Councilmember Alderete Gavito.
Thank you, Mayor. Congrats on the 75th year. I know that it's countless of hours of dedication to pull off a successful event. It's an event my family and I go to every year. My father-in-law from Brownsville, he makes sure that my girls have new boots for the rodeo every single year. It's super cute. And I'm just going to try and figure out how I get my 4-year-old enrolled in the mutton bussin'. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilmember Alderete Gavito. Councilmember White.
Yeah, I just wanted to say thank you as well. Councilwoman Rocha Garcia touched on it earlier, the economic impact of the rodeo, the charitable impact, and then just the overall way that the rodeo contributes to the spirit of San Antonio and the good feelings that run through the city, you know, before, during, and after the rodeo, I think really can't be understated. And none of that would happen without all of you. So thanks so much for the work.
Thank you, Councilmember White. Councilmember Kaur.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to echo the importance of the work you all do in terms of educational scholarships. Someone who helped a significant amount of students try to access college, financial aid is the #1 limiting barrier for a lot of our students to be able to attend a higher education institution. And we never want that to be a barrier. So I just wanted to thank you all for that work and challenge you to do even more next year. Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilmember Kaur. Councilmember Courage.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, I just want to just acknowledge, like all of us do, that the rodeo is really a premier event in this city. And along with, you know, our cultures, our traditions, and the history of San Antonio, it all comes together to, you know, make life in San Antonio so special for all the people here. So the work that you do, the commitment of all those volunteers, just helps improve the lives of all of us. And I just want to thank you on behalf of, I know, the citizens who are going to come out and really enjoy the rodeo this year.
Thank you, Councilmember Courage. Councilmember Villagrán.
I just want to make sure everybody remembers to look at the calendar, and it is sarodeo.com. Wanted to get that plug out there too. Thank you, Mayor.
That is correct.
sarodeo.com. And just also want to reiterate my thanks. The work that you do to raise money for scholarships is really important. I don't know if I've ever shared this with you before. I got a scholarship from the Austin Livestock Show and Rodeo years ago that helped me get through college. So I know the power that you guys have that goes far beyond the rodeo. So congratulations, thanks. We'll see you all out there all month.
Absolutely.
Thank you. All right. Now I'd like to ask if Jose Contreras and the Beat AIDS team could come forward. I'd like to recognize them with the following proclamation. Whereas the City of San Antonio, together with Beat AIDS Coalition, will join communities across the nation to observe National Black HIV/AIDS Awareness Day on February 7th, 2024, to promote HIV/AIDS prevention efforts among our most vulnerable and at-risk populations, including our local Black and African American communities. And whereas through the unwavering commitment of the Beat AIDS Coalition and the City of San Antonio Metropolitan Health District's Sexually Transmitted Infections Control and Prevention Program, approximately 71% of Bexar County residents diagnosed with HIV in 2021 were linked to medical care, 62% have remained in care, and at least 52% are now viral suppressed. Whereas National Black HIV/AIDS Awareness Day is an opportunity to encourage our local Black and African American communities to get tested and know their HIV status, and get educated about transmission modes of HIV/AIDS, and get treated if they are currently living with HIV or newly diagnosed. And whereas pre-exposure prophylaxis, or PrEP, is one pill once per day regimen taken by HIV-negative persons to remain negative, Truvada for PrEP provides a 92 to 99% HIV risk reduction for HIV-negative individuals who take the pills every day as directed. And whereas the national mobilization effort is also designed to destigmatize the conversation around HIV/AIDS and to encourage all those newly diagnosed to begin a regimen of the once every 3-month injection of Apretude as an alternative to a pill regimen. Now, therefore, I, Ron Nirenberg, Mayor of the City of San Antonio, in recognition thereof, do hereby proclaim February 7th, 2024 to be National Black HIV/AIDS Awareness Day in San Antonio, Texas. Thank you all very much for what you do every day for our community.
Good morning, Mayor, City Council persons. My name is Michelle Mayfield Durham. I'm the Executive Director of Beat AIDS, Black Effort Against the Threat of AIDS here in San Antonio. We've been around since 1987. To my left here is Jose Contreras, our HIV Prevention Director, and along with us are many members of our team as well as consumers. We are going to yield most of our time to the consumers, but I do want to thank some of you individually for the support over the years. Mayor Nierenberg, thank you so much for all that you've done for our organization. Councilwoman Sandoval, Councilman Castillo, and Councilwoman Carr, Councilman McKee Rodriguez. You all, we have bricks and mortar in your districts. However, we serve people in every one of your districts. And so all of your support is we're grateful. We're very thankful. We want to also thank you for the EHE group that you all support, End HIV Epidemic, led by Ms. Barbara on your Metro Health team. We especially want to give honor and privilege to the work done by Ms. Woosley and her DHS team. They're over your HOPWA dollars, Housing Opportunities for Persons with AIDS, but more specifically, our project officer, Ms. Modesta. Now, you may know that according to the AIDS.vu, we are trying to get people into care and keep them in care, but only have 72% of the people with HIV staying in care. Our goal by 2030 is to get to 95%. That's as a full community, and it's going to take all of us. You guys are the most, I like you guys as a council better than any other group I've known in the 29 years. First of all, you put on your buttons. Second of all, you're looking at me and listening. And third of all, you care. You care about the people of San Antonio. So just really grateful to you. We want to yield our time to a couple of women who are brave enough to share a little bit of their story with you this morning. So first we have Ms. Venus.
Good morning, Mayor and City Councilman. My name is Venus Henson King, and I'm a native of Boston, Massachusetts, by way of Washington, D.C., and now here in Texas. My husband and I, we moved here to Texas with a plan of new beginnings, only to find ourselves homeless within a short period of months. Learning the qualifications about getting into shelters here put us at a standhold because we had to be separated in order to get into the shelter because we don't have any underage children. Nevertheless, we both were able to get into separate shelters, only for a very short time, which produced growing stress for us, as well as myself. Why? Being a person who is challenged with HIV/AIDS, one of my many red flags that I keep in mind is the virus needs to stay undetected. And one has to be adherent to the medications and going to the doctor at all times. Not to mention staying away from stressors, which can elevate the viral load and decrease the CD4. A diligent search that I led out to find an agency where I can get linked up to a medical case manager and hopefully a doctor to keep me adherent. The medical case manager that I was able to get linked up with, he worked very hard at time, as time was of the essence. He was able to navigate me to a place that would be a great fit for me and my special needs. I was welcomed to an agency called NEW, which is Newly Empowered Women. At NEW, I was able to be amongst other women who shared my challenges. And I no longer had the stigma of feeling strained. At NEW, I was able to benefit from many different opportunities and daily groups to help restore and nurture the parts of me that had become hindered due to the homelessness, the depression, and the anxiety that I faced. I received scheduled daily groupings and activities, teaching, education, and not to mention to be linked individually with a tailor-made plan of action just for me to help me to return to the best version of me. They were able to secure a more permanent place for me to be in and be reunited with my husband. Even now, not being a resident at NEW anymore, it's not mandatory that I attend the groups that they were offering and I was a part of, but as my choice, I still make it my business faithfully to stay connected at least 2 to 3 times a week, so I can stay fed with the education, the sisterhood, the tools, the life skills, the outings, the activities, the mental health therapy, and so much more. But most of all, the genuine love, the peace, the kindness, the caring that newly empowered women offered me. Thank you.
Your DHS department has funded newly empowered women since it opened in 2010. Thank you again. And we have Ms. Beatrice, and then we're done.
Good morning, Mayor, and to all the councilmen. My name is Beatrice Matthews, and I am a sibling of 12. I've been dealing with my issues since 1999. I have been empowered with Newly Empowered Women Home since 2013. I still regularly go learn the education, you understand me, and have the support and the love and the care and concern that I get from Newly Empowered. They have been an open door for me, throughout this battle that I deal with. So I am grateful that I have Newly Empowered Women Home to come to, and they are very supportive. I have everything that I need right there. So thank y'all for letting me share that.
Thank you.
Thank you all very much. And Venus and Beatrice, thank you very much for sharing your story. And know that your city will continue to have your back and that of the entire Beat H team. So thank you very much for all of your work. Councilmember Villagran.
Thank you. I just need to share because I want to thank the women for sharing their stories. I know it's not always easy to get up and do that. I want to thank you for acknowledging our city staff and their efforts. And I just want to say that one of my former students is standing in the crowd, Christian. And he came to the office and he was like, hey, I want to do an event, talk to my staff. And he was like, I want to do the event to get the word out about AIDS and getting tested and staying safe. And I was like, and we just snuck it in. And we got it done at Mission Marquee, and I recognize some of you there. And what makes me realize is we need you to go out to the community, because we know there's no hospitals in District 2. We have one in the south side of San Antonio. The west side is lacking. So we need you to go out and say, these are the steps you can take, and this means so much. And I want to thank you all for coming out here and doing this, and ask that you continue to do it year after year, because it's through your efforts, because younger people aren't listening to me. It's through your efforts that we're getting it done. So thank you so much for being here. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Villagran. Councilmember McHugh Rodriguez.
Thank you. Thank you all for the work that you do in destigmatizing as well as providing a resource for those who need it the most. I also want to say thank y'all for sharing y'all's stories. I know I've been over there as a council member and it's still intimidating. So thank y'all for being vulnerable and for sharing your stories. And I think it's important to elevate the work that you all are doing. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Beat AIDS, the entire community is here to support. We know that there's a long, long way to go, and we're here to listen to what you need to help be successful for the entire community. So thank you all very much for coming, and we look forward to seeing you out in the streets.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, we have one item remaining on our agenda, so let's go ahead and pull up item number 9.
Item number 9 is an ordinance adding the City Council Code of Conduct to the City Code of San Antonio that outlines general standards of conduct and a process for reporting and enforcement.
I'll entertain a motion on item 9, and then we'll continue. Okay, there's a motion and a second on item number 9. Is there a need for a presentation? Okay. We do have a couple citizens signed up to speak on item 9, then we'll get to council discussion. So I'll call Jack Finger.
Oh, Mayor Nirenberg, other members of the illustrious San Antonio City Council, for the record, my name is Jack M. Finger, and you, here on item number 9 of this portion of the agenda, you're going to add a new code of conduct for the city of San Antonio. Well, who does the code of conduct apply to? Well, I'll just read it. Mr. Focus on item number 9, if you would, there. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, ordinance adding the city council code of conduct to the city code of San Antonio that outlines general standards in conduct and process for reporting and enforcement. Hand me back that, if you would, there. Yeah. Yes. So, what does that mean? It's kind of vague. I looked at the backup documents there, and I couldn't figure out much of it myself there until I didn't know if it just applied to the city council or the citizens or to who, you know. But once I read it, I finally figured out that it was the code of conduct for you, the members of the city council. And I looked at the 2 or 3 pages of writing on it, and I noticed that, well, Mr. Audiovisual Man, show those yellow highlighted areas there. Item number 3, I think, is where it starts there. Council members will abide by the expectations of conduct outlined in city administrative directives. I found something really interesting. 4.15 says workplace milk expression for breastfeeding employees. Yeah. But here's the really interesting part. 4. Council members must disclose to the city manager an intimate, romantic, or dating relationship with a local government corporation employee, LGC employee, that began either before the council member began with their term or the LGC employee began their employment. With the exception of relationships that began prior to employment, council members are prohibited from engaging in an intimate, romantic, or dating relationship with a local government corporation employee. Separately, if a council member is engaged in an intimate, romantic, or dating relationship with a city staff member, the relationship must be disclosed to the city manager by the council member. Okay, thank you. Return the camera. This is really interesting. What if a council member or a city employee says, "I'm in love with you," and the other party says, "Get lost, you're a loser, get out of my life"? Do they report it to now the chief confessor in charge here, the city manager, whom you employ?
Thank you, Mr. Finger. Cecilia Margaret Spencer.
Buenos dias, Mayor Nirenberg and City Council members. At this time, I donate my time to Mario Bravo. Gracias y bonito día.
Okay, thank you very much. Jose Armando Bravo.
I give my time to Mario Bravo also.
Okay. All right, Mario Bravo, you'll have 9 minutes, Mario.
Hello, old friends. Before I get started, I did want to say that I brought a gift for you all today. It's Rodeo month, and so a farmer who I know out in Rockdale, Texas, asked his son works for the Austin Rodeo, and his son was the guy who used to, or would typically milk their cows on weekends. So the owner of the farm asked me if I could come out and help milk those cows. So I milked these cows last weekend, and I brought you some of the freshest milk from grass-fed, pasture-raised cows, and I like to put it in my coffee. I think it's a real treat, and please try some. It's in the back room there for you all and for staff, not just for council members. But I didn't come here today to talk to you about milking cows. I'm here because, like many of you said with your kind words on my last day in office, I'm passionate about our city government. And I wanted to share some of my perspective and input on the code of conduct proposal that you all are deciding on today. Let me start by saying I absolutely agree that city council should have a high standard of conduct. Every elected official and staff member here deserves to have a safe and productive work environment. So I'd like to keep that in mind as we discuss this. At the same time, I look back and see that San Antonio has had a city council since 1837. Since that time, the city has trusted the voters to elect their representatives and vote them out of office when necessary. And I wonder, why has this council lost trust in the voters to handle this? Can the voters themselves not determine when to call for their representative's resignation or when to collect signatures for a recall election? I'd also like to ask, how does this proposal serve the greatest needs of our community? In the list of your constituents' priorities, where does this proposal stack up compared to getting loose and dangerous dogs off the street, putting an end to gunshots in the middle of the night, or reducing the ever-increasing property tax burden? Is this what you were elected to do? If you're still determined to move forward, then let's look at your draft proposal. It appears to set up a separate legal system for future trials of your peers. The first question you might ask is, do we need a second legal trial system? Our country has a legal system that, if we're going to be honest, has been imperfect. It has delivered gross injustices throughout history, but it's been refined over hundreds of years, and in many ways, it has improved based on lessons learned from not getting it right. And it took countless revisions to get us to our still imperfect system today. Let's say that for whatever reason, you conclude that you do want a separate legal trial system. If that's the case, let's do our best to get it right. I'd like to invite you to think about how you can ensure a fair process for determining whether someone violates a proposed code of conduct. What will ensure the integrity of future investigations and trials of your peers? What gives me pause when I read over your current proposal is that I don't see it spelling out any rights of the accused. Will the accused have the right to view the evidence presented against them? If not, how might they be able to refute arguments presented in secret? Will the accused be informed of the timeline of the investigation and given advance notice of when the investigation will be closed? How much time will the accused be provided to gather evidence and witnesses? Will extensions be granted if requested? And under what conditions? When someone stands accused, what will determine the scope of the investigation? Who gets to determine who is and is not interviewed as a witness? And how will you prevent testimonies from being coerced by people in positions of power? If the actions under investigation are in response to a history of harassment and/or threats, will that history of harassment or threats be taken into consideration? You can start to see part of why it's taken so long to improve our country's current legal system. And when you don't spell out the rights of the accused, what I have unfortunately learned is that you run the risk of the accused having no rights whatsoever. Investigations on conduct violations should be fair, complete, and transparent. Trials carried out behind closed doors are not good for our democracy. Unfortunately, that is what this proposal, as currently written, appears to do. In our current legal system, punishment is prescribed based on the infraction that was committed. A criminal might be given probation for possession of a small amount of marijuana, 5 to 10 years in prison for possession of large amounts of cocaine, and maybe life in prison for a violent offense. Your proposal prescribes 3 levels of punishment, but does not define what determines when you would apply which punishment. Leaving that undefined ultimately subjects the punishment selected to political whims, something that I thought we were trying to get away from. Speaking of punishment, that brings me back to the goal that I think we can all agree on, creating a safe and productive work environment. What evidence can you point to that demonstrates that censuring a council member or calling for their resignation will lead to a safer and more productive work environment? Your proposed actions of enforcement, a written letter of reprimand, a censure vote, and a public call for resignation are all forms of public shaming. The holistic psychologist, Dr. Nicole LaPera, says that shame has never changed anyone. If anything, it makes people better at hiding their behavior. I invite you to question how this proposal, as currently written, will contribute to a safe and productive workplace, and also ask yourselves, how is it that a policy that prescribes 3 different choices of public shaming aligns with our stated values of being a compassionate city? My hope is that you apply the wisdom that I know you all have, and the action you take today will accomplish your intended goal. Thank you very much, and I care about this issue. I want to stay. If this debate goes on for a long time, I might leave. It's not because I don't want to hear what you have to say, but I do have to catch a flight to New Orleans. But thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bravo. All right, we'll go to council discussion now. Councilmember Rocha Garcia.
Thank you, Mayor. And I want to start by thanking all of my colleagues for your willingness to discuss the code of conduct today. I appreciate that you all wanted to publicly acknowledge that the council, this council, as we stand right now, need to reinvest in our public and let them know that we have a set of values that we prescribe to, if you will, and publicly acknowledge that we will commit to those values. And so I want to start off by thanking Andy for the work that he put into this and the entire team at the City Attorney's Office. I think that this is definitely a great start, and I welcome the discussion today, and so that's why I'm really glad that the mayor agendized this today and that the city manager is just so confident in the fact that we need to have a code of conduct, that they were willing to put this on. I think that we need to definitely repair some relationships with each other and with the public, and I think that this is a good first start. It starts somewhere. And so I think this also shows that commitment to regain the trust in maybe some people that don't trust in the system anymore or that are wary of the system. And so we have to have this open and public dialogue so that we could fix the wrongs of the past, if any. As a council, we value an engaging and respectful debate and differing opinions. And today we publicly commit to fostering a safe and productive work environment, refraining from any harassing remarks or from making sure that, or even into making sure that we follow Robert's Rules of Order. So I just again want to look forward to the comments that my colleagues have today. Any input is great and appreciated, and I will probably close off after that with remarks. But thank you so much. Looking forward to the conversation.
Thank you, Councilmember Rocha Garcia. Councilmember Alderete Gavito.
Thank you, Mayor. I fully support adding this ordinance, and frankly, I think it's long overdue. I don't want to diminish any of the great work that my colleagues and I do on a daily basis, but as a council, I do feel we need to up-level our professionalism. I do want to give credit where credit is due. Councilwoman Dr. Adriana Rocha Garcia has been pushing this for years, way even before this current council was elected. I come from the business world where professionalism is not only expected, but it's necessary to get things done. Most of us many of us left careers where we've worked our entire lives to come to city council to serve our city. To serve our city, and we're held to a higher standard. And I know that for a fact that each of us are here and honored to serve. I hope that passing this ordinance reminds us of the high standards our constituents hold us to and inspires each of us to hold ourselves to that high standard as well. This ordinance sets the tone for an effective and efficient council meetings moving forward and paves the way for us to be able to focus on the business at hand without being distracted with things that have no place in City Hall. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilmember Alderete Gavito. Councilmember White.
Thanks, Mayor. Yeah, I'm going to support this today, and I also appreciate Councilwoman Rocha Garcia's work on this, and I know this has been a long time coming, and you wanted to see this for years, and so I'm happy that it's here today. I do want to make sure that the public is of course clear on what exactly this code of conduct covers, because there is a very specific 8 categories of council member behavior that this code of conduct covers, and I know there's been some perhaps confusion out there in the public with just what we're doing here today, but as you can see from the 8 categories of conduct listed in the ordinance, this is really dealing with council member interaction with each other, and that with LGC staff. And listen, you know, I've been here now about 7 months, and you know, overall, I believe that council really interacts with each other pretty well. I agree with Councilwoman Aldrete Gavito that it's very important that we treat each other fairly and with respect and professionally. And if this new code of conduct is going to increase the level of professionalism and respect by which we deal with each other, then I'm for it. And so, again, I appreciate everybody's efforts on this. Thanks.
Thank you, Councilmember White. Councilmember Castillo.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to express my thanks to city staff for working on this item, as well as to Councilman Dr. Rocha Garcia, who has been requesting that the city of San Antonio explore a code of conduct for city council. I do agree that it is with utmost importance that we treat each other with respect and dignity. However, in reviewing the proposed code of conduct, there's a couple of areas that are a bit gray and give me pause. For example, implicit threats of physical harm to another person, personal attacks, and discussion of personal personalities and disrupt are not defined within the code of conduct. With the language being vague, it's up for interpretation and gives me concern about censorship. When we look at cities and local governments, whether it's at the federal level or state representatives and even school boards, we've seen how censure has been used to challenge those who challenge the status quo. For example, Minnesota U.S. Representative Iman Omar in February 2023 was removed from the Foreign Affairs Committee for past comments about Israel. Oklahoma State Representative Maury Taylor in March of 2023 was censured after allowing a protester into their office who protested anti-trans legislation. Tennessee State Rep. Justin Jones and Justin Pearson were expelled by the House for allegedly violating the chamber's rules of decorum by participating in a protest. Montana Rep. Zoe Zafar, Montana's first transgender state legislator, was barred and censured from physically participating on the House floor after condemning a measure restricting gender-affirming care. In California, Adam Sheriff was censured for investigation launched for comments that he made about former President Trump. Further, we see that Texas Congressman Tony Gonzalez was censured for essentially not voting with his party. So ultimately, what we see, and in New York, for example, Councilmember Tiffany Caban was removed and stripped of her committee chair appointment due to her vote against the city's budget. And here locally, we've seen Edgewood ISD school board member Michael Valdez for quote-unquote decorum. So when I see these examples and how it's up for interpretation, it's often minorities and women of color who are reprimanded for not going to get along. It's a bit concerning. And I think there's an example, and I want to commend Councilmember Jayla McKee Rodriguez for the Crown Act. I think that shows the conversation and the work that we still need to do when we have conversations about what is professionalism, because it's a conversation that's still taking place and it's not necessarily a fixed and defined, and it's evolving. I do understand that the city of San Antonio does have their definition of professionalism, but it is an evolving spectrum, and we're still working it at the state level, and I commend Councilman McKee Rodriguez for taking that fight on. Further, with examples of the subjective language and action, for example, if I were to share an article stating that if I were to tweet or retweet an article that says, "This is the leadership San Antonio deserves," and it's an article about Mayor Brandon Johnson standing with his constituencies to call for a ceasefire, can that potentially be something that can be investigated? If myself or my staff were to like or share a comment that may be making a comment about someone on this dais, will that be considered not showing a council member respect and open and subject to this process? Overall, Andy, I have some concerns about our First Amendment right. Can you explain how this ordinance is enforceable if it limits our First Amendment rights to freedom of speech?
Yes, Councilwoman. The Code of Conduct are rules that the City Council, if adopted, have said they would want to live by. And obviously, the First Amendment rights that are protected under the Constitution would override anything like that. So it goes, again, to the behavior that's outlined in the Code of Conduct and the council action on it. But again, you're right, you have to overlay the First Amendment rights that everybody has, including council members.
Thank you, Andy, because when I look at the freedom of speech, it allows us to use certain offensive words and phrases to convey political messages, right? And that's a Cohen versus California case. Further, to engage in symbolic speech is allowed through that right. And what we're seeing here at the local level is not allowing this body to practice those rights. Ultimately, it will go through a process. I do want to echo the fact that I'm really disappointed. Jack mixed a couple of key pieces. There was some stuff in here that you could have capitalized on. For example, section 2.215 also gives me concern, which gives the mayor the ability to disregard Robert's rules, which is concerning because Robert's rules establishes the meeting decorum that this body must follow. And what we've learned with the 3-signature memo process is that everything's vague and up for interpretation. And with no safeguarding language, who knows how these future meetings can go with the next mayor, right? So there's a number of moving pieces in here that I think should have us all raising questions about the democratic process locally. We're going to have a conversation on the 21st about the CCR process, which also removes levers of this body to enact policy on behalf of our constituency. And in regards to professionalism, how about the professionalism between us and our constituencies? The professionalism of sitting for the entirety of public comment, the professionalism of being accessible, the professionalism in ensuring that we are a representative body and responding to the cause of the residents of San Antonio. So I'm more concerned with the professionalism about the people we represent than who likes who, and I'm more concerned about the actions that impact my constituency. Because I would argue that it's unprofessional to allow community members to be displaced by not investing fully in relocation services. I believe it's unprofessional to sweep encampments. I believe it's unprofessional, et cetera, right? It's up for interpretation, and each of us who are elected by our constituency. The process laid out allows City Council to be the judge and jury of each other, and ultimately, I believe that the residents of District 5 in each one of our constituencies are who we're accountable to. Our code of conduct lies with the individuals who represented us, who elected us rather, and ultimately, there is a process for recall. If our constituency is disgruntled, does not agree with the actions of one of us, there's a process within the city charter to ensure that we're removed. So there's mechanisms in place. So ultimately, looking at what's in front of us, the February 21st meeting of the CCR process, looking at the 3-signature memo, I'm just really concerned, what's next? Are we going to reduce public access to us weekly? What's next? And I think it's important to highlight that oftentimes in the political discourse, when we talk about chipping away at the democratic process, we like to finger point, right? And I only see one registered conservative up here. So it's just really alarming and concerning, worth noting, and I won't be supporting this code of conduct. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilmember Castillo. Councilmember Kaur.
Thank you, Mayor. I want to thank Councilmember Rocha Garcia, Dr. Rocha Garcia, for pushing this forward, and Councilmember Castillo for sharing your thoughts. I do think there's a lot that you gave us there to think about in terms of the interpretation of the language. I want to thank Andy and city staff for your team for putting this together. I know the ones of us that are new joined the conversation a little bit late, but I feel like the process that you all took was really important in terms of making sure this was something that the public could digest, and also comparing it to all of the other other cities across the state that have code of conducts. I think it's important as leaders, we always tell students that as a leader, you are a role model and folks are looking up to you. And so it's important that you show what you want others to how others to lead and be in our city. And so I know that I will do my best to uphold this code of conduct, and I know my colleagues will too. And I will be supporting this item. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilmember Kaur. Councilmember Courage.
Thank you, Mayor. I've got some questions for our learned attorney.
I don't know who that is, Councilman, if it's learned.
Andy, under your understanding of what we're looking at today, for example, if a council member was involved in an alcohol or drug violation outside of city council or not on city business, such as a DUI, is that covered as far as what kind of action the city would take by this?
I would say, Councilman, that of course, a lot depends on the facts and circumstances of what the behavior was outside of council, how it relates to the business conducted by the city council. I would say it can be, again, depending on the facts and circumstances. And frankly, though, it's up to the council as to whether it would apply or not. Because again, these rules are rules that the council is deciding they're going to live up to. And it'll be ultimately up to the council as to what behavior is covered and which one is not.
Yeah, but I don't think I see anything specific about the actions outside of the city council meetings or city business that says somebody who's in that kind of a situation could be held by the council for some kind of responsibility.
You're correct, Councilman. It doesn't call to that specifically.
Okay.
I guess you're right. The focus is on behavior, interactions between council members, and they're conducting business here on the dais or at committee meetings. But I guess my response would be that it doesn't foreclose, right, whatever action council wants to take with respect to behavior outside.
One of the things in our city charter are the term moral turpitude. And I see no definition for me as a council member to understand what that could be to the point where I might want to take action for a violation of moral turpitude.
Another great question, Councilman, and we have the same problem in terms, when I say we, the legal industry has the same problem in terms of defining what moral turpitude is. But again, that'll ultimately be a decision made by this body in case there is behavior that may or may not fall into that category.
Would, for example, a council member putting out or revealing disinformation through social media, would that be something that would be covered by this?
Again, it all relates to the facts and circumstances, Councilman. I will tell you, if something is sent out inadvertently, or if it's something that's not or sent without the intention of harming somebody or harassing somebody, I would doubt that would fall under this code of conduct.
Okay. What about failure to perform your duty as a city council member? Maybe misdirecting city resources, not to where it's criminal, but where it seems to be a dereliction of a duty or something like that.
Again, I would say a lot depends on the facts and circumstances, Councilman, but we do refer to a lot of administrative directives that talk about the appropriate use of city resources. We would probably rely on that in terms of, and I guess I'll fall back onto if a city employee, for example, if they do, or if their behavior is such that they would violate the AD, then the behavior of a council member may fall under that same scope as well.
And what about a council member acting in opposition to city policies to the detriment of the city? Could that fall under any of these code of conduct rules for action by the council?
Well, frankly, Councilman, that standard is applicable now, even without a code of conduct. In other words, as a council member, you have a fiduciary duty to the city. And therefore, and not from a policy standpoint, I'm talking more about putting the city in harm's way from, for example, from a legal risk standpoint. But certainly disagreements or different views on policy, those certainly don't come under the scope of this code of conduct.
You know, one thing that was mentioned was by a speaker about the right to call for resignation. Maybe that shouldn't be something that's left up to the voters. But I think we've heard from enough people in our community that they demand council take action under certain circumstances. And, you know, giving somebody a letter of reprimand or a censure, it is humiliating. Yes, it is shaming. But then I think that the conduct may be such that the community expects the council to take as firm possible action as we may be able to take under some circumstances. And I would never take away the council's right to call for a resignation. I'm glad we formally haven't done that since I've been on council. I hope we never have to. But I think that's one of the choices that need to remain in this. I've just pointed out some concerns I have about what may or may not fall under this code of conduct, and maybe it just gives us an opportunity to continue to think about how we may have to strengthen or add to cover some of the unknown conditions that may come up. But as of right now, I'm inclined to support what we have before us today and always continue to move forward to make ourselves better. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Councilmember Courage, Councilmember McKee Rodriguez.
Thank you, Mayor. I was hoping I would get to listen to one more person. You guys are giving me a lot to think about, and how I arrived here today. I think about this item as making a commitment not only for ourselves but for future councils. And can we actually do that? We do that fiscally, and we do that in ways that are tied to policy and things like that. I don't know that something about this is vague and it's open to interpretation by future councils, and it can be used as a tool for political gain. It could be used to harm those who disagree with us and to take a step further than the things that happen naturally behind the scenes. I do also want to say that, and I'll say it's a wee bit dramatic, don't we think? This code of conduct doesn't address, maybe how some of us feel people are perceiving this council. I don't think that there's this overwhelming feeling throughout our community that, council can't get things done and they can't act right. I think there's a feeling about individual council members, and there's feelings in other districts about other council members. And that's something that's going to be consistent. But this doesn't undo the actions of the past 14 months. It maybe is applicable to one of the 3 actions that council has taken. And so I understand that what we're aiming to do is create consistency, and consistency is very important, but I don't know how we achieve that. And it feels almost like we're trying to signal something that we can't right now. And so I don't know how I'm going to vote on this right now. But I'm open to listen and to continue listening. And my commitment is that I'm going to continue doing everything I've been doing. And you can stay peeping my Twitter for spicy tweets. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember McKee Rodriguez, Councilmember Villagra.
Thank you, Mayor. Now, Andy, at any time by council, an ordinance can be changed or amended, correct?
That's correct, Councilwoman. Again, I want to emphasize these are rules that the council is adopting as a council. And yes, as a council, like any other ordinance, you can amendment or change it or frankly, repeal it.
Thank you. And I think when I started on council, I knew Councilwoman Rocha Garcia, before I got on council, had been discussing a code of conduct. I thought it was an idea, but again, I kept on thinking, these are grown adults. But again, like Marina, I come from the professional community where it is par for course that you have a code of conduct. And I think that this is a tool for us personally to use, and for us to kind of move forward with. I think there is some vagueness where it will be challenged, and it would just make me very upset. And I want to believe that the citizens of San Antonio wouldn't elect a dais that would use this to politicize and cannibalize each other. But, that's for future councils to see. So I really want to start with at least a guiding post, and I think that's what we have here in terms of us personally to look at how we behave and how we move forward in behaving. And if it helps people from having side conversations while you're talking, I would love that also. So I will be supporting this today. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember White. Councilmember Castillo.
Thank you, Mayor.
Sorry, White's next.
Okay, go ahead.
Villagran, thank you. Sorry, I was thinking about who's after you.
Oh, okay.
And I forgot to thank Councilmember Villagran. So thank you, Councilmember Villagran. Councilmember Castillo. Councilmember White, you're next.
So I'm up, right? Okay, sounds good. Well, thank you, Mayor. I wanted to highlight a couple of things, right? When I hear the private sector being the model of professionalism, I think of all the complaints that workers have put and the role of labor unions, right? That would likely challenge that those codes of conduct should be the principle or pinnacle, rather, of professionalism. And in discussion, I heard a couple of things, right, that we've heard enough from community. This item was posted on Friday, and we did not have public comment last week, or this week rather, and we're not having it next week. So we haven't had an opportunity to hear from the public on this item in particular. And in discussion, I appreciate Councilman Courage's questions, right? And what came to mind is how unintentionally this perpetuates inequity, right? And I'm thinking about each of us in our roles and responsibilities. Some of us can hire the best attorney in town to where we walk away and we can't be reprimanded by the charter, right? There's folks on here that, work multiple jobs or don't work multiple jobs. We have different incomes that limits our access to representation, and we're all going to follow the same process, assuming that we have resources to hire the same representation, which therefore is going to result in different outcomes depending on access to income. So I respect everyone's position on this item. Again, I will reiterate that it is important that we respect each other and treat each other with dignity. But ultimately, I believe that this is a slippery slope that we're creating. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilmember Castillo. Councilmember White.
Yeah, again, I will be supporting this, but I want to echo Councilwoman Castillo's comments on this, on the slippery slope, because it really is a slippery slope here. And I think Councilwoman Villagran mentioned, would this limit side conversations while people are talking, if I heard that correctly? I mean, are side conversations while somebody's talking at the dais, does that violate one of these 8 sections in the ordinance? I mean, enough to where there could be a complaint. Councilman Courage asked some questions about, well, would this apply or would that apply? And one of Andy's answers was, no, but that doesn't mean council couldn't, still take some sort of action. I mean, we have a council code of conduct, but something could not be listed in here as a violation, yet we could still take some sort of action pursuant to our code of conduct or our potential penalties in here. I mean, it is a slippery slope, and I want to highlight the words here in section 221, B1. It says a potential violation is if a council member says something derogatory about another person. I mean, what does derogatory mean? It may mean one thing to one person and one thing to something else, to somebody else. And I feel like the professionalism amongst this council is going to be even more important after we put this into place, because we can't have the slightest comment or eye roll or whatever it may be result in wasting city time and resources investigating those kind of things. Where would we be then? Just wasting taxpayer dollars on something like that. So again, I hope that all of us sitting up here really take it to heart that this should be something that we look to for real violations of one of these 8 categories. Second thing I want to mention is, again, the 3-signature memo process and the CCR process that Councilwoman Castillo mentioned, and chipping away at council member rights there. I could not agree more. It's why I'm happy that we're going to be talking about that CCR process coming up in a few weeks, and the 3-signature memo process as well. That's a tool that has always been there for council members. It needs to continue to be there for council members, and it needs to work, and it needs to be effective. Same with the CCR process. So I'm glad we're talking about that, but that's for another day. As far as this, again, I'll be supporting this code of conduct, but I truly hope that we will all act professionally with regard to what's in this new ordinance. Thanks.
Thank you, Councilmember White. Councilmember Rocha Garcia.
Thank you, Mayor, and again, thank you to all of my colleagues. I think that you all bring up very valid points, and I appreciate the feedback that you all have given. This is the first time that we openly discuss this, and so I'm very happy that we're able to have that conversation, because I think that it's important for our residents to listen to our opinions and to be able to see what it is that we're trying to do. To me, this is a starting point, and I'll give this as an example. I'll reference the ethics code. And Councilman White and I were on the Ethics Review Board together. We served on for some time. And we, in 2018, took to the City Council, to the then City Council, more than 40 revisions to the Ethics Code. A lot of them were just, they were just housekeeping, if you will. The others were substantive in nature. And when we proposed those, that's the beauty of the Ethics Code, and I feel like that's the beauty of an ordinance, is that it could be amended at any time. It is a starting point, just like we do with pilot programs. Is it working? Is it not working? A year later, should we be changing this as a council? What considerations have we made to see if we could improve this? And so I think that again, this is definitely one of those documents that has much more to consider. I feel that there's some very important things in there that help us feel a safe environment. I know that some of my council colleagues sometimes feel and have felt unsafe in the workplace, and I appreciate that there's a direct response to how we make someone feel safe in the workplace, and with regards to physical security, fraud, waste, and abuse, et cetera, everything that Andy's team put in there that is already outlined in the AD, I appreciate it, and I think those are some of the things that we probably all would agree on. We don't all agree on everything on here, but it's a start, and again, we will be able to change this as needed if we see that something is being weaponized in a irresponsible manner. And I think that that's why it takes 11 of us up here to do the work. And we're all representatives of our own communities. We all hear from different constituencies, like Councilman Maki Rodriguez pointed out. And that is what we take back at the end of the day to our homes, to our communities, and what we bring back and we listen to at our seats here and share with each other. So again, I'm grateful to the City Attorney's Office and to the Mayor and to my council colleagues for the thoughtfulness, for reading through all of this, for seeing how something would apply. Maybe there's areas definitely for clarification. I'm just looking forward to some additional conversations on the Code of Conduct going forward. But again, I think that this is a great starting point. So thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilmember Rocha Garcia. Sorry, I lost my cue. Councilmember Courage.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to reiterate what I think my fellow council member just said, that there's still more to look at, and I would really recommend that we look at the way we can make sure that any council member acts accordingly as a fiduciary for the city and does not take an opposite position in any kind of a legal wrangling we may have with any other organizations. I know we all have individual feelings about things, but we also have an obligation to the city of San Antonio, and that fiduciary relationship is important. So I'd like to see something developed that can be put in here, to hold us accountable as fiduciaries to the city. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Courage. Councilmember McKee Rodriguez.
Thank you, Mayor. And I think I'll say that a part of the reason why I was going to vote yesterday is, it's a little bit of the feeling of I can make this commitment for myself, and I'm perfectly cool with this. I triple dog dare anybody to use this as a political tool against me. I'm down for it. But then, and listening to Councilwoman Castillo, I can't help but think about all of those who there have been efforts to rein them in. And many of those names that she listed, Zoe, Justin, Michael, of course we know, I've met them and I've heard their stories, and you hear how quickly people who were friends or were allies, participated in that effort and were silenced and didn't actually act with justice. They acted in a way that was going to benefit them politically and didn't upset whoever was the majority or whoever was the power. And so that's a challenge. And I struggle with the fact that a body that doesn't always, there's efforts, but doesn't always act in a race or gender conscious way, that this body, not just us, but future iterations of this, will navigate behavior that makes people uncomfortable versus behavior that doesn't entirely adhere to outdated ideas of professionalism in a traditionally white, male-dominated field versus behavior that prevents us from actually doing our job. And so with that, I'll join my council colleague Castillo in voting no for this, but I will restate again my commitment to remaining professional in a way that my community expects me to be. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember McKee Rodriguez. Councilmember Villagran.
Thank you, Mayor. Councilman Courage brought up something that I wanted to kind of get your input on, Andy. So today, if this passes today, when can we discuss specifically, because he brings up the fiduciary obligations we have in not going against what the city is in talks with. Would that be taken to committee, executive session, or a B session, if we were going to expand on that? Because that is one of the most concerning things I have as we move forward.
Councilwoman, as I stated before, that again, absent a code of conduct, that still applies. In other words, that's something that all council members currently have, which is a fiduciary duty to the city. As we talk about the outlines and contours of what that entails, that'll probably be an executive session discussion, and probably more. What would be more productive is if that discussion, for example, pertains to a specific litigation or issue that the city's facing. But to answer your question, that would probably be an executive session discussion.
Thank you. I just wanted to clarify that to make sure we knew where some of these conversations were going to be held. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Villagran. Any further discussion? All right, I'll make a few comments. I'll admit to being totally perplexed by the conversation today. First of all, what we would be adopting today creates no new authorities for the City Council. It creates no new expectations for the council. Whether or not we have a written code of conduct doesn't change the standards of behavior that we have already agreed to just by taking office. As far as the fiduciary responsibility, Andy, correct me if I'm wrong, but that's contained in our oath of office, isn't it?
That's correct, Mayor, yes.
This also doesn't create a new court system or legal process to convict anyone. What we're talking about here, and appreciate Councilmember Alderete-Gavito's comments about, from the business world, you have a professional code of conduct. There are many legislative bodies that have adopted codes of conduct, come from a world where integrity requires no rules. Codes of conduct, visible or not, are not guardrails for us to crash into and test where they are. They're expectations that we have as members of the public. So what I would say is, regardless of whether or not they're written, we have them. And what we're doing by adopting a code is creating a public-facing document so they can understand, folks can understand how we do this. It's not, what we're adopting today wouldn't change what we've done in the past. Wouldn't change, in my view, what we do in the future in terms of interpretation of what is professional, what is derogatory, et cetera. Somebody wanted to make a complaint about a tweet. They have that ability right now. But the last 3 times, and there has been times obviously, and that's why it's a conversation, all 3 actions that we've taken have been unanimous. At no time does a council member cede their ability to disagree. In fact, a lot of that disagreement might happen before there's even a call on this dais to do anything, in which case there wouldn't be a vote. But there is no new authority created. There is no new expectations created. What we are doing is creating a public-facing document that I would invite every member of the public to read, and it's there. The pertinent parts are in section 2-21, subsection B under council members. Let me just read a couple highlights. Council members will treat each other, city staff, et cetera, with respect. Council members will not subject themselves or their staff to derogatory or harassing behavior from members of the community. It's not new. Council members will abide by the expectations of conduct outlined in the city administrative directions. That's already in place, is it not, Andy?
The council had agreed that they would live by those administrative directives.
I guess the new one is how we deal with appearances of nepotism or relationships that might interfere with conduct of business. This paragraph was added to clarify that, but it still exists. Robert's Rules of Order, presiding officer in this dais has always had the ability to adjust depending on circumstances. So I would invite everyone to read this. There should be nothing controversial here. Always we will have community standards. The interpretation of what is professional is going to change from one generation to the next. It has. But I just will continue to emphasize there is no new authority created. There is no new expectation created. Council members have limited authority with respect to how we handle issues that, in our view, breach standards of conduct, and we have the choice of whether or not we want to say something about that, which I think is important. But this does not create a new authority to remove council members, nor does it try to define what moral turpitude is. All that is defined actually in a legal process. So again, I'm just admittedly a little bit perplexed about why this is so controversial. I will be supporting it. I thank Councilmember Rocha Garcia, the attorneys, for the ebbs and flows of this discussion over the last 6 years, because I did agree in concept when you brought it up the first time as an ERB member. And of course, I'm happy that we're here now with a document that I think is open and flexible enough for councils in the future to interpret as they may, given the fact that we should have expectations and we should have standards that we always uphold, not only as members of the public, but also as representatives of that public. So I'll be supporting this today. With that, there is a motion and a second for approval of item number 9. Please vote. Motion carries. All right, that's the duration. We do have an exec session briefly, but Eric, City Manager's report.
Thank you, Mayor. 2 items for today, both really great news. I wanted to share with the council that last week the San Antonio International Airport was selected by the San Antonio Business Journal as Business of the Year. The Business Journal recognized the airport's momentous year in 2023 with the implementation of our capital program, the largest ever, the announcement of our first transatlantic flight that'll take off later this year, a whole slew of additional new nonstops that were added here in San Antonio. We received over $40 million in federal funds and a record number of passengers, 10.7 million through 2023. The accomplishments are the hard work of all 509 employees we have out there at the airport and a whole slew of our stakeholders. Couldn't be more prouder of Jesus and the entire team. They are focused on their business and safety and customer service, and they do a great job. And when they got the award the other night, and they listed off all the things that the airport did in 2023, I looked over to Jesus and I said, what are we doing in 2024? So congratulations to the entire airport team. And then secondly, Shannon Miller and Stephanie Phillips with our Office of Historic Preservation were awarded the 2023 JMK Innovation Prize from the J.M. Kaplan Fund. The award is for our Material Innovation Center, and many of you know that the Material Innovation Center that's located over at Port San Antonio reduces construction and demolition waste, supports our affordable housing repair programs, and certainly advances the material reuse that is available here in our community. 10 prizes are awarded every 2 years, so huge congratulations to Shannon and her entire team. In the first year of operation, the Material Innovation Center received more than 10,000 pounds of reusable building material. And that donated material we have incorporated into several neighborhood and housing service department minor rehab projects, as well as contributions to the UTSA research on ADUs and affordable housing. The prize was $175,000 over 2 years, and there is a short video on the J.M. Kaplan Fund website on our program, and I'd invite you to take a look at it. But congratulations to Shannon and Stephanie and the entire OHP team. And that's it today, Mayor.
And the bells ring for you, Eric. All right, there's a exec session. Time is now 11 a.m. on Thursday, February 1st, 2024. The City Council of the City of San Antonio will now meet in executive session and consult with the City Attorney's Office pursuant to Chapter 551 of the Texas Government Code to deliberate and discuss the following items: economic development negotiations pursuant to Section 551.087, purchase, exchange, lease value of real property pursuant to Section 551.072, and the legal issues related to litigation involving the city, emergency preparedness, and collective bargaining all pursuant to Section 551.071.